What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. I've recently had such a really terrible headache. Do any of you get headaches based on like air pressure? The air pressure kind of gone a little bit up, and I can really tell because I have headaches and my eyes want to pop out of my skull. It feels like there's like a little tiny fairy sitting inside my skull just banging on the brain with like a bunch of hammers. Tiny little fairy-sized hammers. Anyway, enough about fairies in my head. Let's go ahead and talk about fairies in RPG horror stories. Or less fairies, more problem players. But her D&D player sends malware to DM's computer after his character died. Now, I'm not 100% sure when it comes to laws and everything, but I am pretty sure to do this is illegal. Federal crime, actually. This story is kind of awkward because we were all friends who play D&D on Discord. To top it all off, my cousin, Aarakocra Monk, is still best friends with that guy, Aarakocra Wizard of the story. The DM also happens to be dating one of the players, Orc Ranger. I was a halfling cleric. Our campaign started in the castle of this noble. We were all this noble's courtiers until she sent us out on our first mission. After that mission, we gained some XP, and she sent us out to explore the world for suspicious hobgoblin activity. We didn't find the hobgoblins she was worried about, but ended up in some dragonborn empire that held a very powerful magic item. Now, Aarakocra Wizard was a klepto. He was always trying to steal, and if stealth didn't work, he just killed the people who caught him. Notably, he ended up killing a dragonborn prince after he snuck into said prince's treasury looking for armor, loot, magic items, etc., and got caught. He killed the prince after the prince saw him looting, an action we strongly advise against, might I add. He then tried to hide the prince's body by casting plane shift and sending him to the other realm. He failed automatically though because he was not even supposed to have plane shift at this level. If he's not supposed to have plane shift at this level, either two things are happening here. He just grabbing spells willy-nilly because he doesn't know any better, or he's actually grabbing specific spells because he thinks he can get away with stuff, but I'm not fully sure. I'm assuming it might be the latter because it doesn't seem like this player maybe is playing honestly, or it could just be genuinely an honest mistake. It's a little too early for us to judge, but yeah, trying to get away with murder of a royal prince and stuff is definitely gonna put the party in a really bad situation. One best thing to do is work well with the party, including not getting them in trouble. We then got caught and faced the wrath of the Dragonborn Emperor. We were all arrested. The rest of us disavowed his actions, except for my cousin, the monk Aarakocra, and were granted a pardon if we embarked on a dangerous quest to find this evil sword, the magic item we came for in the first place. But Aarakocra Wizard was kind of caught red-handed, so he was to be executed, as was Monk. Aarakocra Wizard tried to escape using hypnotic pattern. Unfortunately, the guards passed, and then he panicked, throwing all spells from Acid Splash to Fireball to even trying to sneak in Meteor Swarm of all spells. Again, he obviously wasn't going to be able to cast a spell like that at his level. Guards had asked him his last words, as now the player was now raging IRL, and then he was killed. Aarakocra Wizard player was now screaming, "Are you freaking serious?" And DM tried to, in the kindest terms, explain that this game would not be fun without potential dire consequences for dangerous actions. Aarakocra Wizard's player then kept going off, and my cousin tried to join in and said the DM was being unfair. Me and DM's boyfriend defended DM, and then Wizard just started shouting at us too. The argument ended when Wizard's player called her the C word at some point, until she had enough and kicked Wizard from the call. Actions have consequences is not a very difficult concept to understand, and as long as the DM says, "Are you sure?" then you have perfect excuse to ignore what the player is complaining about, because if he gave them a specific warning right before they do something so dire and extreme that could put them or the entire party in danger with an "Are you sure you want to do this?" then I think it's perfectly fine. Like at that point, all things go. One of the coolest things about D&D, in my opinion, is the fact that your actions will have consequences, both positive and negative. And depending on your actions, it could influence the world in a specific way or have a specific twist to things. But clearly the Wizard player didn't decide to consider their actions. Their actions did have some dire consequences, and instead of talking it out with the DM and having a proper conversation, they decided to freak out at everybody at the table, which is totally a well-balanced thing to do. Let's continue. We all talked about what happened for a bit and then went to bed. A few days later, I got a call from the DM explaining that she got hacked. She was very distraught, so me, her, and her boyfriend all met up. She told us how she clicked on a Discord link from that guy that took her to the weird site that apparently dumped viruses on her computer. So now her computer is basically broken with weird command prompts popping up, random programs, and the computer freezing up. Are people still... Listen, I'm not gonna blame OP, but like the whole thing with Discord weird sus links that you shouldn't be clicking, that's been around since what, 2022? It's been around for 2 years now, guys. Please, I can't believe a tiefling on the internet needs to make this disclaimer, but do not click on weird random links from anybody that you don't trust on Discord, even if it's somebody that's like kind of a hey buddy or something. But also, it's really messed up for this guy to do this, because like this is just some scummy behavior. As retaliation for their character dying, you're really gonna be starting sending malware to somebody, and I feel like the person that got affected by it should probably go ahead and report that, especially if they have documentation of this said link and stuff. Anyway, federal crimes aside, let's continue and see what happens. She was very emotional, so me and DM's boyfriend confronted that guy on my phone. He, for some reason, tried to deny it, even though it was on his Discord profile. He claimed he was hacked, but then pressured, he just got pissed off again and basically admitted it and blamed DM for making him resort to extreme actions. Me and DM's boyfriend told him what a piece of crap he was, and when he kept trying to justify it, saying that we were cyberbullied him, her computer wouldn't have been affected if it weren't so old and crappy, and that he was doing her a favor by making her get a new one, and then mocked her for not having an antivirus program. Bear in mind, DM is crying in the background. At the end of this back and forth, DM's boyfriend was angrier than I had ever seen him and told him that if he ever sees him again, he will knock his teeth out, and then he hung up. After the incident, we reported his account to Discord and stopped speaking to him. All of us except his cousin, who says that he gets that he went too far, but says that he just has trouble with his emotions, and try to subtly blame us for being hard on him. He even convinced DM to not press charges. However, she still obviously refused to speak with him and told my cousin to stop trying to relay his messages to her or defend him. You know, I'm not gonna call a call to action, but I'm gonna say something that might be a little bit more on the controversial side. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm gonna say something that might sound a little bit mean, but I think it's well deserved. I think in this situation, if you're gonna be sending malware to somebody, actions should have consequences, especially since considering sending malware to somebody is a pretty sure a federal offense. I could be completely wrong on my cybersecurity crimes, but I'm pretty sure that is a federal offense that carries prison sentences. So if the DM wanted to press charges, they're more than valid to do so as they see fit. Also, for this guy to complain that he was being cyberbullied, like it's a D&D game, your character died because they were doing something really stupid, but instead of talking to the DM about it and talking in a calm manner, you decide to throw a hissy fit, or as most people call it, a bitch fit. And suddenly out of nowhere, it's the DM's fault and everybody else's fault that you decided to have your character mess around, frick around, and find out what the consequences of their actions would be. But instead of having a normal regular discussion about it and trying to talk about out of game how to bring your character back, you decided to go full scorch earth and send malware to somebody, to someone's machine, someone's computer. You don't know what they could be using it for. It could be for work, could be for studies, could be for anything. Either way, it's their property that now you ruined, you dickbag. And for the cousin to defend this guy is just kind of absurd to me. I'm assuming they're buddies or something, or they're super close or whatever the reason is, but like taking sides with this guy is definitely not the way to go. I hope the cousin reconsiders, especially after how terrible this dude has been. But I'm glad the DM has the boyfriend and OP to be there to support them. I hope things work out and you'll be able to get the computer cleaned out. Pretty sure if you take it to a computer shop, they'll be able to give it a scan and properly restore everything as necessary. And I wish the DM all the best. And regarding lessons to learn from this story, first, don't click any Discord links, especially if they're really sus. That's the first thing to do. Second of all, if somebody is being unhinged over the character dying just because they did something really stupid, even though they knew the actions would have some sort of consequences, don't interact with them. I get it with like, you know, close friends or friends of friends and stuff, but if somebody's going that unhinged over the character dying and they can't have a normal, regular ass conversation about it, it's probably not even worth it. Anyway, let's get to the next RPG horror story for today. First time playing D&D, and I feel like I had some misconceptions about how a Session 0 is supposed to play out. The warning applies to the very end of the story, just so you're aware. There are probably also a minor self-harm warning in here as a character tries to delete themselves as a test essentially, but no genuine self-harm, and I can only pick one warning. Apologies if the grammar of this is poor, it's not my strong suit. Also, I know this is a long ramble, but so much happened, and it was all just very odd from my perspective, so I feel like typing it out. Maybe my lack of experience led me to gross misunderstanding of how this would play out, but whether or not it was just me misinterpreting the situation or a genuine issue with clarity, either way, it went extremely poorly, and I feel I should leave the campaign. I'm currently trying to draft up a message saying I would like to quit, but if I leave, it will have to be cancelled because one player already quit the partway through the session, and I feel a little guilty. But mostly I want to avoid any potential altercations online, and I don't know how to go about it without severely pissing everyone off. When it comes to wanting to leave a group, you don't need to write a whole preamble trying to explain your actions. At the end of the day, you decide to leave the group for yourself. You can just simply say, I don't feel right being here and I don't feel comfortable, and therefore I want out. Simple as that. Probably the easiest thing to do is for this sort of situation is just to keep it short and sweet. And if they have any other questions about why you want to drop out, they can always just DM you directly and you can like talk to them, you know, heart to heart or one to one. But at the end of the day, if you just make an announcement, just to let people know that you're dropping out, just say, hey, I'm dropping out. This doesn't feel right for me. I'm not okay with this. I'm out. Bye-bye. A little context. I live in an area with very religious people, so there aren't a lot of people who play D&D. Now, I've been wanting to try it out for a little bit, so I figured I would find an online game to join. So I found a server that had campaign starting soon and messaged the DM saying I was interested, but I hadn't played before and was wondering if he would be open to a first-time player. He said he was, and that he was still looking for players. I had a character prepared because I was told by other server members that that was the easiest way to go about joining a campaign. My character was a human rogue, but I was informed that one of the other players was already playing a rogue, so I said that was okay, and I'll make a different character. We then proceeded to do a voice call where he rambled to me for a while about homebrew. That seemed to be a topic of interest to him because he was very enthusiastic about me picking some random homebrew for my character. I said I was confused about that and didn't know how to pick homebrew, as I wouldn't be able to tell if it was actually balanced or if it was actually a good idea in any way, shape, or form. He said I didn't have to pick homebrew, but seemed disappointed and proceeded to go on a 30-minute tangent showing me some sort of April Fool's homebrew on Wikidot. I'm unsure if this was meant to be an example of bad homebrew to help me. I had a bad migraine at this point and felt like someone was shoving an ice pick in my left eye, but I nodded along and tried very hard to listen. He also showed me some poetry he made, which I have no comment on because I didn't even attempt to read it with my headache, and I'm no poetry critic, but I know it was serious in tone and included at least one Star Wars reference. I know this because after I declined to read it, he explained what it was about to me. He also went on about great length about how I should not under any circumstances attack the NPCs because they were extremely powerful and would essentially nuke my character. He went on a great length about how they were basically gods. I agreed not to do that and thank him for warning. First of all, if you want your players to pick something that's homebrew, why not suggest some different homebrews? Be like, hey player, I'm glad you're here to join in. Are you ready to make some selections about different homebrew that we got? You can't just dump information on people and just expect them to just pick something. You gotta give them some suggestions. Ask them like, hey, so what are you interested in playing? I know you wanted to make a human rogue, but what else would you be interested in? If you had a pick of the litter, a pick of different fantasy type, what is it that you would be into? Do you want different humanoids or do you want something more exotic? Second of all, the Star Wars comment, kind of weird. I don't know why you pressing a poem on it, unless it's something important to the actual D&D game. It just feels like, I don't know, you just be like, hey, listen to my SoundCloud as well, just promoting a SoundCloud to a random stranger for no reason, except it's poetry. And the third thing, claiming that your NPCs are basically nearly gods. Well, I got a question then. If your NPCs, a random passerby, a random store owner is basically a demigod, then what's the point of having players in your world in the first place? Like for real, ask yourself, if a random old woman from down the street is more powerful than a player character, she's basically a demigod, then what's the point of having player characters in your world in the first place? Just have all your NPCs save the world and whoopee! You don't have a game. You got a book instead. Just make you look really insecure about your NPCs and stuff, and you're just afraid people are just gonna murder Hobo it. Just tell people, hey guys, just don't murder Hobo, and call it a day. No demigod NPCs required. In the end, we agreed that I would do some research and create a new character and run it by him. After a while, I created my character, a Water Genasi Tempest Cleric, who I was quite proud of and thought it was a pretty good character. Tried to pick a decently powerful subclass given that he said he would be up against strong enemies. Made a sketch of my character and ran it by him. He said he liked it and asked some clarifying technical questions, about half of which I answered, but I figured I would work the rest out in session 0. Anyway, I get to the session and it starts with me and the 3 other players introducing themselves. They seem to be neutral or evil aligned characters, but I was expecting that given we start in prison. So this did not bother me at all. The other players seemed pretty normal and nice. I thought that after this, maybe we could work through some of the technical aspects and generally gain a better understanding on what is going to go down. He had previously said on the voice call that I would ask technical questions and work out a better understanding of the game in session 0. But after we all say our names, we proceed to jump into an absolutely insane prison break scene, in which one of the aforementioned insanely powerful NPCs proceeds to cause an explosion and teleport us out of the prison in a matter of minutes. Before I can open my mouth, basically, so I just decided to go with the flow and hope it slows down soon. We proceed to teleport out, and this NPC goes on a whole ramble about how she needs us to break her dad, who is apparently a god out of jail for gods. We're level 5, and offers like a functionally infinite amount of gold in return. My character doesn't particularly care for gold or anything she can offer, but goes along with it just out of curiosity. Some of the players have questions about what happens if they refuse, and she proceeds to summon a bunch of wolves and say she would set them on us if we didn't agree. If this random NPC can summon wolves, teleport people out, and send giant fireballs of explosion everywhere, then why does she need a level 5 party? What is the advantage of having a level 5 party? It sounds like she could probably handle it on her own. This is why your stories need to have players actually matter, and have your players actually be powerful in your story, be capable in your story, be actually useful in some way. If your player characters can just be screwed over by a random movement that teleports them out of there and just feeds them to the wolves in the middle of the woods somewhere, then what's the point of even have a player character in the first place? She seems perfectly capable herself. We agree, and I teleported to her house, which is apparently on the back of a terrace. If you have a house terrace, then why do you need a party of level 5 players when you can just have the terrace ram through the prison and use a little teleportation magic to teleport your father out of prison, and your Tarrasque as well? Why make your NPCs so powerful that they're more powerful than the player characters? You know how much it invalidates the presence of player characters? Like, you don't even need them in the story whatsoever. You just have your powerful NPC that can just break their dad out of prison with a Tarrasque house, and there we go. Call it a day. Party is no longer needed. Good DMs and good games trying to make sure that the party in your game, the main cast, the main characters for your whole game, your whole story, they matter. They're powerful, they're capable, they're able to do things that most ordinary people just simply cannot do. And if you don't have your player characters feel capable and powerful and above the average cut, then what's the point of even having them in the first place? I'm not sure if I spelled that right, but you get the idea. At this point, one of the characters tries to duel the NPC. It is immediately clear that said NPC is unbeatable. There aren't even real attacks, and half the time she doesn't roll, stating that the player couldn't reasonably beat her anyways, so she's just able to immediately beat the character. The duel ends with the aforementioned character magically entombed in a cave without an opening in the back of the Tarrasque. I start to slowly back away from the NPC, but the pools of acid on the back of the Tarrasque start to rise when I do this, so I stop. A cave opening in the back of the Tarrasque? So like it's a butthole? Did they entomb somebody inside of a Tarrasque butthole? Or what? Or is it just like a weird crevice on the back of the Tarrasque? I don't understand what that means. Is this a euphemism? Also, yeah, your NPC of course is going to be so powerful over the player characters. Your player characters just literally have no agency. What is the point of having them there if you can just destroy them right there? Just go rescue your own dad yourself then. Go ahead, might as well, Tarrasque lady. At this point, another player decides he's tired of the NPC's games and attempts to jump off the back of the Tarrasque. He is immediately teleported to the top again. He tries various other methods of deleting himself, and they end similar way before the NPC put his hands on her head and attempts a spell to knock the character unconscious. The player makes a con save and rolls high, but fails. DM says the character is knocked unconscious for a few minutes, and when he returns to consciousness seems to be infantile and think the NPC is his mother. At this point, the player decides to leave because he doesn't feel like he has any actual ability to affect the story in any way. He's very polite about it, says that the playstyles are just not compatible and doesn't mean to offend the DM. He then leaves the call and the NPC proceeds to off his character for disrespecting her father. At this point, we're half an hour in and I'm extremely lost and confused. This was probably the best timing to join that player because, oh, poor sweet child, just wants to try some D&D, ends up with this disaster over DM. The player that did this, the player that decided to leave halfway through, saw the red flags or realized they have no player agency and decided to bow out respectfully. If only the OP knew that this was the right time to go, they should have joined them. This was the right time to go. But they're new, they don't know what's going on. Well, let's see how this disaster ends. We cut to a 2-week journey to wherever we're going on the back of this Tarrasque, and one of the now 3 remaining characters is having connectivity issues and has to leave. It's just me, one other guy now. He asks if there is anything we would like to do while we wait. There's some minor character interactions, and then one of the characters asks if there's a training area and initiates a fight with some sort of holographic elves. There's a lot more of them than him and he seems nervous and asks if anyone else is around. I say my character's probably sitting on the sidelines chilling. It's just a training session, so I didn't join in for a bit because I assumed it wouldn't go too south since it was a controlled circumstance. But eventually the other character is really low on HP and I joined the initiative to heal him because he was about to die. And there's still like 3 guys left, so I felt like my assumption that it wouldn't go south was incorrect. But I'm in the fight now, and the DM encouraged me to use a lightning spell, as apparently it would deal maximum damage because of my domain. The only lightning spell I have 3rd level is Call Lightning. He seems surprised that Call Lightning is 3rd level, but we're both double checking and confirmed that it is. I think I managed to kill at least one. After that, another round goes by and there's still one guy. It's my turn again and I cast Guiding Bolt. I upcast level 3 because screw it, we're traveling and I don't really need to save spell slots. The DM doesn't know what Guiding Bolt is, which is shocking to me because I thought it was like the most stereotypical cleric spell there is. And I knew what it was just from existing on the internet. The other player explains the spell and I cast it. I hit and he survives, but barely. The remaining hologram then proceeds to knock the other guy unconscious on his turn. I had no idea he was this low on hit points again. That is actually really surprising, to know about Call Lightning, but not about Guiding Bolt? It's like not knowing about Warlocks and Eldritch Blast. Guiding Bolt is like the iconic thing for clerics. I mean paladins too, but clerics specifically. At this point the fight ends with the OP NPC stepping in and absolutely murdering the last holographic elf guy without a roll and healing the unconscious player character. And then out of freaking nowhere the NPC asks the other player character if they look beautiful and casts Charm Person on them. And then while he is charmed, she essays the player character, who's a warforged, so I'm sure about the logistics of that, but that's not the point. I'm unsure the other player was in on it or expected it, as he and the DM seem to know each other. What? You just essay? Charm Person to essay somebody? What? This is so left field. At this point, I'm deeply uncomfortable. It was stated that the campaign would have adult content, which I was fine with me, but I assumed any sexual encounters would be between consenting parties, though I did not have a chance to clarify this. I voiced my discomfort, and he says that it won't happen in the future, and that is what Session Zeros are for. That they're good for testing boundaries. I say that he should have just asked me what I was comfortable with up front, and he says he's better than one DMs with sexual content because some will make you describe it. Say the issue isn't how graphic it is that there isn't any consent. And he says again about how it won't happen again, and it was just to test my boundaries. And I say okay, and leave the call. Anyway, I assume the Session 0 will be mostly talking and figuring out logistics, and I'm absolutely bewildered and blindsided by this first experience. Am I just stupid or wrong about how D&D is typically played, or is this weird like I think it is? If I am just not understanding how this sort of thing is meant to play out and this is actually normal, let me know. But either way, this went really poorly all around. Consensus with the comments is basically the same as me. This was definitely not a Session 0. This was just a DM power tripping and just having their little roleplay moment to show how the character's bestest ever. They're the greatest. They never miss. They could do whatever they want. Teleport 100,000 billion people anywhere they want, whenever they like. Have a Tarrasque house. It sounds like someone's weird like Mary Sue fantasy. Like they took the character they were running that probably didn't work out in a different game, and they're like, screw you DM, I'm gonna start my own game. Well, my character's the bestest ever. They're gonna have a Tarrasque house. They're gonna be able to spend spells on anything. They're gonna be the most powerful ever, and they'll be the lead of the story. And that's probably how the campaign came around to be, with them trying to look for players to basically not be players, but a captured, I guess both, captive audience for their Mary Sue character. If you want to have Session 0, a little bit of light roleplay for general introduction is fine and all, but for the most part, Session 0 is where you get the background stuff out of the way. The do's, the don'ts, the things that people okay, the things that don't okay, maybe some sort of consent sheets, maybe some sort of phobia sheets, anything like that, in order to figure out what people are cool with and what people aren't cool with, and describe and explain the expectations everybody will have from the campaign, from the DM, from the party, and how they can all play properly and well together. This was a full-on session, just jumping in. This was not Session 0 in the slightest. This was just a full Session 0 of a captured audience watching the DM's favorite super bestest ever Mary Sue. OP, I recommend just not joining for this game. Listen, your time is way better spent looking for other games online than dealing with this one. No D&D is better than bad D&D, and your time is definitely better spent looking for other games worth joining instead of dealing with this nightmare mess. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.